one and only Jeff Van Gundy, broadcaster, coach, bon vivant. Welcome. Very happy you're here. Thank you for joining us. And y'all know we just had to travel across the country for the most juicy game of this young NBA season. LeBron James and the Cavaliers charging into Madison Square Garden to play the suddenly red-hot Knicks. Now, Brian and I were over at the Garden for Cavs shoot-around this morning. LeBron, very clearly ready to go for a game that has all kinds of subplots on top of subplots. Not that he needs the extra motivation. From the very start of his career, there has just been something about this building that LeBron becomes a human highlight film. There was the time he dropped 50. Oh, and that other time when he dropped, 52. And the multiple triple-doubles he's had here. I mean, look, there are all kinds of ways that LeBron wants to keep going here, but of course it's more than the world's most famous arena on his mind tonight. There is also the matter of his ongoing feud with the New York Knicks team president, Phil Jackson. You may remember last month when Phil claimed that LeBron demanded special treatment so he could spend extra time hanging out with his posse. LeBron took a lot of exception to that, as did the guys around him, who, by the way, run several multi-million-dollar businesses and are hardly hangers-on. And apparently, no wounds have healed since then. When asked about Phil this week, LeBron didn't back down, saying he had no interest in sitting down with Jackson to talk all this out. And Phil apparently not in a conciliatory mood either. In an appearance on CBS Sportsnet just last night, Jackson very specifically did not apologize and also said he had no intention of seeking LeBron out for a chat. He said, no, it's water under the bridge. I don't think there was anybody hurt or harmed in this situation. I think LeBron's friend obviously had an issue with it, so we just let it go. It's not enough to talk about it. Now, LeBron told us this morning that he had not yet seen Jackson's interview, but I promise you, it will get put in front of him before he takes the court tonight. And look, I've had a lot of people ask me over the last month, what is this really about? Is this just about the word posse? And the answer is, it is about much, much more than that. It's about how LeBron feels he is seen in the league and society and feeling like no matter what he accomplishes off the court, there will be people wanting to put him in his place, so to speak. This is how he put it when he was asked about Phil just the other night. Quote, I've always given respect to people in the league, and it's always shade thrown on me. Just lets me know how much further we still have to go and how far we still have to go as African Americans, even in the light of today. So LeBron, he's putting that in such big picture, Jeff, and Phil, he's much more narrow when he's talking about it. What do you think when you hear both sides?
Well, I don't think Phil had any, genuinely, I don't think he had any racial overtones in what he said. I do believe by nature, he's dismissive of anybody else's successes. So I think it's much more in line with his personality versus him taking a racial shot at somebody. But I think when you saw the genuine hurt in Maverick Carter and in LeBron James, I think you do have to look introspectively, all of us, in how we use language. Why don't we use the word friends or business associates? Why, the first time I remember hearing the word posse was with Allen Iverson's group. Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned this earlier. It was more of a hangers-on mentality. That's how people perceived it, whether it was true or not, I don't know. Taking from, and certainly LeBron jump-started the careers of Rich Paul and Maverick Carter, but this is certainly not a handout. These men have made it and made it big, and I think this whole drama, we should look at it much bigger context in that language matters, and you have to be very careful about what you say. Something that is innocuous to you means a great deal to somebody else, and that's listen. I had to learn. I listened to myself I've probably thrown that word out as well, and it's not right.
Your brother was very open about the fact that he said, I've used it in the past, and I had to think about the fact that I've only used it when talking about black players, and I'm going to stop using it, or I have stopped using it. This is something LeBron, though, sees as bigger than just this word, and you saw that quote, and you and I both talked about this, right?
I think he was not telling the whole truth this morning. I think he had seen, knowing LeBron, when he walked in there, he had seen these new quotes, and he was annoyed that Phil probably hadn't apologized, and he didn't want to go through it again, and so he just said, I don't want to talk about it. By the way, he was kind of in a like a playoff mode today.
I know.
mean, it was very
He walked in the
intense.
building. You saw him there in his shooting gear, but when he walked in the building,
Like a
he was
ninja.
all black from head to toe with even most of his face
Looked
covered.
like a ninja. So I don't know what that means for tonight. 12 hours later, I don't know. But this was, look, LeBron was strategic here in doing this. He saw Phil as totally exposed, and he popped him in the nose. And Phil ends up on the back of the tabloids, and LeBron won this battle. And so if I were Phil, I wouldn't want to relitigate it either. And LeBron already has his victory. He's made his public relations statement. Now he gets to make a statement on the court, and I think that's what we'll remember more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, we were showing the clips of him at the Garden. He knows how to score points there, so I think he will be looking to do that tonight. I do want to talk about another subject Phil hit in his interview with CBS Sports, Carmelo. Melo dropped 35 points last night, win over the Heat, leading the Knicks to their 4th straight win, but Jackson would still like him to incorporate more of the triangle offense. Yeah, you were going to hear that triangle word. Phil said, quote, Melo can play that role that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant played. That's a perfect spot for him. The only problem, Phil added, is that Melo is still holding on to the ball too long. Phil said that Melo still holds it 4 or 5 seconds. He would like him to hold it for 2 seconds. Coach, I know you've heard this all before. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, they don't even run the triangle very often, so I'm not sure what the debate is. I think, listen, Phil Jackson, I don't think needs to apologize or try to legitimize this offense. He won and won huge with it, and he's a great, great basketball coach. There are many different ways to win, and I think Jeff Hornacek has tried to find the right blend. Carmelo Anthony's a certain player. Some players have to find a rhythm through holding the ball. I think in general, ball movement's important, but what they're trying to do with him is get him the ball in his spots so he can go to work and take advantage of his best strengths. I really don't compare it to a Jordan or a Bryant. I wish those guys would have moved the ball a little bit more against our teams instead of shooting all the time and beating us. But, listen, there's always going to be this pull, it seems like, they're still fighting. Should they run the triangle? How much should they run the triangle? Is the triangle still relevant? And good offense is always relevant. You can run a lot of different systems to win. Jeff Hornacek has to run what he feels is best for his team. And I give credit to Phil in that even though he wants to talk a lot about the triangle, he's not demanding that he run it and run
He's
it
awfully demanding in the way he talks about it. Now, let's say you were the coach of the Knicks. It shouldn't be too hard, because you were. And let's say you're preparing your team, for a game, and all of a sudden you hear your boss giving interviews talking about your lead player. He uses coded language again. He called him a ball hog. That's essentially what he called him. And by the way, I think Melo does, I'm not a coach, but I think Melo does hog the ball at times, but he's also been extremely successful. He's been playing the same way for 14 years. He's an isolation player.
We know who Carmelo Anthony
He's going to be an
is,
isolation
right?
player till his last day in the league. He's never loved the triangle, but I don't think Phil is being helpful. And I don't know how you'd feel if you were the coach about him giving these interviews. Now, look, please keep doing it. He gives us fodder. We need it. They have a show every day. But I don't think Phil's helping by giving these interviews, talking about what his player and his coach essentially should be doing.
Well, listen, Jeff Hornacek's done a good job. Think about all the potential pitfalls they've had so far. Rose's trial, missing training camp.
Joakim Noah hasn't been what they thought.
Is Carmelo taking away from Porzingis? And I think Jeff Hornacek has put it together extremely well, and they're playing well, and they're getting better. And so, to answer your point, I think as a organization, you have to speak in one voice as much as you can. I think Miami has perfected that. San Antonio has perfected it, where they're all speaking the same language with the same goals. And in this situation, I think, again, there is this innate pressure, I think, for the talk always to be about the triangle. And what they should be talking about is when they guard well, they win. When they rebound, they win. Because they're going to find enough offense with Porzingis, Anthony, and Rose when he's healthy.
Well, Phil Jackson's getting paid a lot of money. So I get it. But I also wonder, if he doesn't hurt the situation more than he helps it.
Well, his original comments about LeBron were about LeBron's time with the Heat, right? And of course, the Knicks were playing the Heat last night, so people asked Eric Spoelstra, hey, do you remember this incident that Phil started this whole thing and talking about? And he basically said, I don't even remember that. He goes, Phil likes to say things just to say them. And there's an element to that, right?
Yeah, again, when he was coaching and winning, everybody who covered them loved that part of his needling personality. Now when his team, has been in a bit of a struggle and he's not coaching, the media covers him differently. He hasn't changed, but how the media cover him
should he change?
I think you're always looking to change for whatever is better for your team, but I just think a lot of this is about how he's being covered versus him doing something radically different. But this idea of special treatment, can we get real? Okay,
I mean,
LeBron,
Michael Jordan
got like he wasn't always in on the pregame talks. I'm sure he had, bodyguards that traveled that maybe B.J. Armstrong didn't have. I mean, Patrick Ewing, when I coached him here,
trips to Atlantic City maybe that other players.
He parked underneath, and I was parking across the street.
Right.
And guess what? It should have been that way.
Right.
So
with your Honda Civic.
Yeah, well, yeah, that and like I would have carried him over if he needed me to. But the point is that. And LeBron saying he's never gotten special treatment, come on, stop. Like, let's just, if we want the real truth, I just wish we could either say, I'm not going to answer that because I don't think it would reflect well on me. But the best players have always gotten, and I don't mean special treatment in a negative sense, just they get more considerations beyond getting paid more. They have more pressure on them. Listen, I think it's normal.
That's why we use the expression, the guy you build your franchise around. That is literally the way teams work around these guys. So we also want to talk about the second game of our doubleheader tonight. The Clippers host the Warriors in a huge game for Western Conference bragging rights and really pride for Los Angeles. Remember, when these teams met in the preseason, it was a disaster for the Clippers. They were down by 53 points at one stage. And Coach, how badly do you think the Clips need this win tonight?
Again, I'm not into statement regular season games. I think they want to play well. I think they will play well. I think they'll win. I think they have an outstanding team.
But you think Clippers are going to win tonight?
Yeah, I think they're a great team that had a little bump in the road, just like sort of Cleveland did. Golden State is the best team. I don't think it's close. And then you have Cleveland, Clippers, San Antonio, probably in Toronto in the next grouping. And I think the Clippers are really good. So I don't think it, in the big picture, doesn't mean anything, but it's sure fun to watch great teams play.
The Clippers had a great game plan last week when they played in Cleveland. They really took advantage of the Cavs' weakness on the interior. Blake Griffin was a tremendous facilitator, had 11 assists. They bring that same type of game plan and effort tonight at home. Coming off a bad loss against the Pacers, I'll bet they stick their foot in the ground and get a win. I think they can do it.
Two out of two people, you guys both think. You're picking against the team with the best record in the league and possibly the best offense ever. That's interesting.
Well, last year they played them well. They couldn't finish. They couldn't finish, but they played them well.
And I understand what you're saying about not being a statement game. I do think that teams can build confidence if they get wins during the regular season. We shall see. We do want to get to a topic, Jeff, that you love, dear to your heart.
One of your favorites.
What's that?
Flopping. Marcus Smart officially was warned for this flop that he took Monday night in Houston. Check it out again. That's really, that's special right there. Not everybody could do that. NBA
Horford should be warned for missing a layup.
Yes, and he had one last year. It's just as bad as this one he had last year. He was fined $5,000 for this one against the Hawks. Yeah, I don't know what that was. It's like, boom, out of a cannon or something like that. Has the league done enough? This has just happened again. Is the league done enough to stop players from popping?
I think that
they tried.
Their findings system, I think, did curtail it somewhat. I think, again, they have to reevaluate constantly to see, listen, is it starting to creep back up? Because I noticed because of that finding system that it did go down, but if it starts to creep back in, they got to come down.
And your blood pressure went down a little bit during games, too. Because
listen, I get so sick of it.
You can see on the screen here, we've got some nice ones for you. Just injuries out of nowhere, some special moments. It's the NBA you love, right?
Well, the thing I would say, the only thing I disagree with their findings, I think if you fine, even if you're fouled, it shouldn't be called.
Okay.
Like right here, that's a foul, but if he takes a dive like that, no, sorry, you're out of bounds. You're out of bounds.
I think it's not like the dress code. They brought it in like 7 or 8 years ago. It was oppressive at the start. They let it go now, but everybody's dressed better.
Right.
The flopping was oppressive at the start. They don't enforce it as much now, but overall in the league, it's a little bit better.
I feel like there's some pretty egregious. We've seen some pretty egregious.
There's some pretty egregious
examples
outfits
just
too.
in the last couple of weeks. That's true. But now those guys are paying many thousands of dollars for those outfits. So, and they are then paying many $1,000s in fines for the flaps. So it all comes full circle. Jeff, thank you so much for spending time with us. We know you have to run over to the Garden to call tonight's game. We think it's going to be a great one. We appreciate it.
Got it.
All right.